Part 50. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 492. This news is worth a lot of money. Li Yun said softly. In a sense, the soul summoning pearl is the housekeeper of the underworld. Except for the underworld, other forces cannot refine it at all, or even activate it. Only people from the underworld can use the secret treasure. To put it bluntly, even if there is only one person, it is equivalent to thousands of troops standing behind him. Although it is limited to the immortal king, in today's world, it can overwhelm anyone. The power is not something ordinary people can fight against. Senior, I wonder how much information these things can bring in exchange. The immortal lord didn't hesitate at all. He took off a storage ring from his finger and placed it in front of Li Yun. Oh! Li Yun took the ring, penetrated it with his spiritual consciousness, glanced at it casually, then put the ring down and said lightly, although there are many things, the value is average. The immortal lord. This is already less than half of his net worth. He planned to exchange the remaining resources for an opportunity to break through his current realm, but now it seems that it is a bit hanging. He overestimated his worth too much. He also underestimated the value of the soul-calling beads. After all, if you have one of these things, you can defeat the whole world. Even if the owner of the soul-calling bead is just an ordinary person, as long as he can activate it, he can suppress an old monster like Teishu who has lived for hundreds of millions of years. Hammer on the ground. It is no exaggeration to say that the value is immeasurable. Although the value is not too high, there is some news that I cannot tell you. Li Yun accepted the storage ring and said slowly. After hearing these words, not only the immortal lord, but also Teishu became energetic and quickly looked towards Li Yun. There are a total of 7 soul-calling beads in the underworld. Li Yun stretched out his hand, made a 7-character sign, and then said again, now, 6 of them are hidden by the lord of the underworld, and 1 is in the hands of the underworld's Lu Changfeng. Lu Changfeng. When Teishu heard this name, his heart couldn't help but move, and he lost his voice. Have seniors heard of this person? The immortal lord said in surprise. Indeed, I have heard of it. Teishu nodded and said the underworld warship arrived before, and one of the men wearing armor was Lu Changfeng. This person was a fallen figure at the peak of the immortality realm when the Tianyuan realm was split. When he was alive, he had the opportunity to step into the realm of the immortal king, but unfortunately, he encountered a catastrophe in the Tianyuan realm. If he had not died, he would have become an immortal king. Later, he was summoned back from reincarnation by the Lord of the Underworld and began to serve the Underworld. The reason why Xianguang realm was destroyed was that Lu Changfeng contributed a lot. The immortal lord was speechless. He didn't expect that Lu Changfeng had such a big background. A person who almost became the immortal king and made great contributions to the underworld. It is no wonder that he can master a soul summoning bead. To snatch the soul summoning bead from this person is almost as difficult as climbing to the sky. Even if you snatch it away, what will happen? There are still 6 more in the hands of the Lord of the Underworld. Here is an extra piece of news for you. Nowadays, there are undead everywhere in the Tianyuan realm, Zixuan realm, and earthly immortal realm. The reason is a soul summoning bead in Lu Changfeng's hand. And a soul-calling bead can theoretically control a world. In the underworld at its peak, everyone had not only one soul-calling pearl, but tens of thousands of them. Li Yun Kankan said. Teishu. The immortal lord. This moment. Although they have never seen the underworld at its peak, they have seen the tip of the iceberg of the underworld from the description given by the owner of Tianji Tower. Just one soul-calling bead suppressed them all and beat them. It's hard to imagine how much pressure the heavens and realms must have faced back then when facing the most powerful underworld. With this careless move, the heavens and realms are now dominated by the underworld. Fortunately, the soul summoning pearl was unable to control the immortal king. Otherwise, the underworld would really be invincible. Senior, since Lu Changfeng has one soul summoning bead in his hand, where are the remaining soul summoning beads placed? Or in whose hands it fell? The immortal lord asked. Although people in the underworld cannot be killed, it is impossible for the soul summoning bead to recover after being broken, right? If the soul summoning bead is broken, then the underworld will lose a lot of combat power. At least the vitality is seriously injured, it is certain. Because, without the soul summoning pearl, Lu Changfeng and others will lose the foundation for resurrection from the dead. Everything about them is maintained by the soul summoning pearl, unless the Lord of the Underworld can establish the 6 paths of reincarnation. In this way, the undead can get rid of the restraints of the soul calling pearl. It is a pity that the current Xianguang world does not seem to have the 6 paths of reincarnation to suppress it. At least there is no news about the 6 paths of reincarnation to some extent. It's a little worse than the original Hades Emperor. If you buy this information, it will be of no use to you. Even if you know where it is it possible that you can sneak into the heavily guarded underworld? Li Yun said with a chuckle. The face of the immortal lord was stagnant. At this time, only then did he realize that his strength was indeed low. If he entered the underworld recklessly, it would take less than a quarter of an hour for the underworld to have a subordinate who was at the peak of the true fairyland. That junior. The immortal lord is about to speak. Beside, Taisha took the lead and said, Senior, you mean that as long as we can sneak into the underworld, we can find a way to crush the soul-calling pearl? It's possible, but the chance that you won't be able to leave is higher. Li Yunruo said nonchalantly. He can deduce everything. Nothing in this world can escape his deduction. Under his guidance, you can walk around any place safely. Even the underworld is no exception. Of course. If you go in and take a walk, you can be sure that you are safe and sound, but if you want to destroy someone else's soul-calling bead, then you can't say for sure. That is to say. Taisha's eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, Senior, do you have a solution? At this moment, even the immortal lord became excited. If they can really destroy the soul-calling pearl, they still have a chance of making a comeback. Of course there is. Li Yun nodded slightly. Please let me know, seniors. The immortal lord gritted his teeth. A storage ring appeared in his hand again and was sent to Li Yun. This was prepared by him in order to break through to the true immortal, but now it seems that he can break through at any time. Anyway, he still has longevity. Quite a lot, but the soul summoning pearl that destroyed the underworld cannot be delayed any longer. Not enough. Li Yun glanced sideways from the corner of his eyes and slowly uttered 2 words. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 493. Not enough. The immortal lord is helpless. This is all he has. After all, he has been alone for countless years and has not established any power. Although his skills are mysterious and he has transformed into several clones, all of them have their own subordinate forces. But he has never managed the clone matter at all. He has never taken any resources. Now it is obviously too late to return to the immortal world. But if he misses such an opportunity because of insufficient resources, he will suffer a big loss no matter how he looks at it. Got it? Senior. At this time, Taisha spoke. He took out 2 immortal level weapons, placed them in front of Li Yun, and said softly, this is what this junior captured before when he was fighting against the people of the underworld outside the earthly immortal world. 2 weapons. I wonder if these things can be exchanged for a chance to enter the underworld. Oh. Li Yun raised his eyes and glanced at Taishu. He hadn't noticed before that after Taishu experienced a battle, it was not that he had gained nothing. At the very least, he came back with 2 weapons. In addition, these two weapons in the immortality realm, the value is indeed about the same. After all, in the current underworld, in his eyes, there are not many secrets. As long as his spiritual consciousness is scanned, he can roughly see it, and with the help of the system, the value of the expenditure is not that great at all. That's almost enough. Li Yun did not sell out. After hearing these words, Taishu and the Immortal Lord looked at each other, and at the same time saw the surprise in each other's eyes. They did not expect that they would actually get a way to fight against the underworld today. This is the underworld of the underworld. I have written down the methods for breaking the formation of the underworld's mountain guard. If you enter according to this map, your life will be safe. Li Yun threw the two jade slips out, and Immortal Lord Changsheng and Taishu caught them immediately. After a moment, Li Yun pondered for a moment, took out another jade slip, and threw it into the hands of true Lord Changsheng. King Yun said calmly, this is a way of changing one's appearance. It can simulate the breath of any kind of skill, and can even change its appearance. If it is not the existence of the immortal king, there will be absolutely no clues. This Immortal Lord Immortal took one look at this technique and was extremely shocked. No doubt. This technique is of great value. The value is much higher than the resources he took out just now. After all, you can imitate the aura of any skill and change your appearance. With this skill, you can sneak into any sect or holy place safely. And it won't be discovered. But today, the senior Tianji poster actually gave it to them directly. This friendship made them unable to react for a while. Seniors are so kind and virtuous, juniors. The Immortal Lord was about to say thank you, but before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Li Yun raising his hand. Don't be in a hurry to say thank you. This technique is only lent to you for use, not given to you. It only lasts for 3 months. Li Yun raised 3 fingers and continued, after 3 months, I will automatically clear all memories of this technique from your minds. If you want to obtain this skill, you need to exchange it for items of equal value. The Immortal Lord. Really? There is no free lunch in this world. Not to mention Tianji Tower. The owner of Tianji never makes a loss-making business. Estimate. What the senior Tianji poster plans is to let himself and others experience it. Once they realize the benefits of this technique, it is impossible not to pay for it. The last jade slip was given away. Li Yun waved his hand casually, indicating that they could leave. The last skill was not given to the other party on a whim, but because he knew clearly that this time, Taishu and the true Lord Changsheng would gain a lot. If he died like this, all their gains were in vain. How did you get it, and how do you have to give it back? After all, the underworld will not give resources to Tianji Tower for no reason. But if he saves them, it will be different. These things will fall into his hands. It is for this reason that he took the initiative to send the exercises. The juniors resigned. Taishu and true Lord Changsheng looked at each other, cupped their hands in a tacit understanding, and then turned and left. After leaving Tianji Tower, the two of them immediately saw a group of people guarding outside the building. Among these people, there were people from the earthly immortal world and people from the Tianyuan world, and many of them were familiar faces. Seeing these people, the two of them didn't think much about it. After all, the Xianguang realm had just merged, causing a huge turmoil that affected every world. It is reasonable for these cultivators to be in panic all day long. Now that they have come to Tianji Tower, they can better understand. It is estimated that they also want to know some news about the underworld. Facing such a terrifying enemy, how many if you have some information, you have an extra chance of survival. If you don't know anything, it is very likely that you will die without knowing how. Good chance. Seeing the two people from Taishu coming out, many people's eyes lit up in the crowd. After waiting for so long, the people who entered the Tianji building have finally come out. Then, isn't it the opportunity for me to wait for others? However, before everyone had time to take action, they saw a whoosh, a stream of light passing by, and someone immediately rushed in. His speed was very fast, beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Even the emperor could not see clearly. This. Everyone present was speechless. Who is this person? Why do you move so fast? Hanju. The immortal lord of immortality glanced at the figure entering the Tianji tower, his eyes thoughtful. Others did not know the person who had just entered. But he still knew him. Because the Han family in the earthly immortal realm interacted with one of his clones. Okay. And Hanju is the ancestor of the Han family. His cultivation has reached the peak of the great emperor early, and he is not far from the realm of true immortals. However, as far as he knows, the current ancestral land of the Han family is, because it is close to the border of the immortal realm, and has been completely occupied by the underworld of the Xianguang realm. With the strength of the underworld, how can it be possible for a person with only the emperor level to escape? In other words, how virtuous and capable Hanju is, in the realm of immortality are you able to escape with your life in the hands of countless underworlds? I wish I was overthinking it. The immortal lord thought a lot for a moment, but he finally shook his head and eliminated some unrealistic thoughts from his mind. Senior, there are unpredictable dangers in the underworld. The junior is willing to walk with the senior so that they can take care of each other. I hope the senior will not dislike it. Coming back to his senses, the immortal lord bowed respectfully to Taishu. In the Tianji tower, the price you paid is not small. Since you are willing to go to the underworld, I will naturally not stop you. Taishu responded. If he can have a chance to deal with the underworld, he will not forget the contribution of the immortal lord. Since the other party wants to go, he has no reason to stop him. In this case, how about we rush to the underworld now? Asked the immortal lord. Good. Taishu nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, the two figures disappeared in the deserted city. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 494. In the Tianji Tower. Hanju stepped into it. The first time I entered, I felt as if I had arrived in another world, where the Taoist rhyme circulated and the fairy spirit was dense, just like the legendary cave heaven and blessed land. Among there was a man in green clothes, with a face like a crown of jade, a long figure, and hair like a waterfall, hanging down naturally. He was holding a teacup and looking at him thoughtfully. He noticed Li Yun's gaze. Hanju reacted quickly, he quickly raised his hands and saluted. Junior Hanju, meet the senior master of Tianji Tower. At this time, he was beating a drum in his heart. He had heard about the reputation of Tianji Tower master for a long time. When he saw it today, it was indeed extraordinary, especially those eyes that seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. He couldn't help but doubt that he had taken refuge in the underworld. Could it be that Master Tianji has seen through it? But think about it on the other hand. Master Tianji is aloof and has unfathomable strength. He should not be free enough to pay attention to an emperor-level figure like himself. After all, the real immortals and immortals are the ones on the table now. A top-notch person. The emperor has actually taken a backseat. His Han family is not a prestigious clan, and has no reputation in the Tianyuan world. If he comes to the Tianji building master, he should not be able to deduce everything about him. Thinking of this, Hanju he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As long as he could fool him, it was still possible to complete his mission. Once he found the whereabouts of Emperor Hades, he would have made a lot of contributions in the underworld. In the future, eternal life, immortality, it can be said that it is within easy reach. Hanju. When Hanju was worried and didn't get a response for a long time, a clear voice slowly came over, which made the latter feel refreshed. As a great emperor, you are not slow on your journey. Just as the immortal lord left on the front foot, you came on the back foot. It seems that you have worked hard on the method of flying. Li Yun said with a smile, but not a smile. This. Hanju's heart trembled. The reason why he was able to reach the Tianyuan realm so quickly was because the underworld had put in a lot of effort, and the other party directly sent him to the borderlands of the Tianyuan realm. That's why we quickly came to Tianji Tower. If he were to fly here by himself, it would take at least half a year. How could it be possible that he would be only a sliver behind the immortal lord? And the time he set out was much later than that of the immortal lord. In other words, the time spent was much less than that of the immortal lord. But it would be nice if he knew this kind of thing. Now, it is absolutely impossible to expose the news about the underworld in the Tianji Tower, because this person in the Tianji Tower has just killed 3 immortals in the underworld. Nothing can be hidden from the seniors. Although the juniors are not very proficient in the attack methods, the flying magical power is the juniors' special skill. Hanju said with a smile. These words were somewhat insincere, but since the owner of Tianji said so, he could only continue and admit it directly. In case the owner of Tianji didn't believe in evil, he could deduce it on the spot. Then everything about him would be all leaked. He. Li Yun chuckled lightly, but did not expose it, but continued to say, what do you mean when you come to Tianji Tower this time? To avenge the Han family. These words are asking knowingly. The Han family is on the edge of the earthly immortal world and has been occupied by the underworld, and the Han family has already taken refuge in the underworld. Li Yun's words are somewhat heartbreaking. If Hanju wanted to, if he wants to take revenge, he will probably be the first to die. Cough. Hanju coughed lightly to cover up his embarrassment. The reason he came to Tianji Tower this time was to inquire about the whereabouts of Emperor Hades. It was obviously not possible to use the name of Hades, so he had thought about it when he came. In the name of revenge, it is somewhat reasonable to invite the Emperor of Hades. After all, they are all underworld. Both parties know each other well, and it can be said that they are somewhat restrained from each other. To be honest with the seniors, the juniors came here for revenge. As he said that, Hanju showed an expression of inexplicable grief, as if the Han family had suffered a lot under the rule of the underworld. However, the junior is weak in strength and is really no match for the underworld. Instead of dying in vain, it is better to seek help from an expert. If the senior is willing to help, the junior is willing to offer all the heritage of the Han family. Li Yun squinted his eyes and glanced at Hanju indifferently, feeling quite amused in his heart. What a man who retreats in order to advance. How much heritage can the Han family have? It is definitely not as good as the Qin family. Based on their family's heritage, it is absolutely impossible to ask him to take action. Hanju probably knew it in his heart. That's why he said this deliberately. In this way, it would be more reasonable to lure out the Emperor of Hades. I never interfere in worldly affairs, please change it? Li Yun said softly. When these words came out, Hanju suddenly felt happy. Sure enough, everything was as he thought. The master of Tianji will not take action, so the next thing will be easy to handle. Senior, the strength of the underworld is unpredictable and no one can rival it. I wonder if the original Hades Emperor has some relationship with the current underworld. Hanju asked in a low voice. As he spoke, he took out a true immortal level item and placed it in front of Li Yun. The Han clan has never had a true immortal level figure, but it is interesting to be able to produce true immortal level items. Li Yun said with profound meaning. As soon as these words came out, Hanju's heart suddenly shivered, and an unpleasant premonition arose deep in his heart, which made him feel cold all over, as if Li Yun had seen through everything. He thought to himself that he was careless. But before he could recover, Li Yun spoke again. It doesn't matter where you got these things. Since you can take them out, it's your ability. Li Yun said something nonchalant, put away the things, and said slowly, the facts are just as you guessed. The Emperor of Hades and the current underworld of Xianguang realm are not only related to each other, but also come from the same source. The two have different inheritances, each has its own emphasis, and there is no distinction between them. I see. Hanju breathed a sigh of relief. The current underworld of Xianguang realm is very powerful, but there has never been 6 paths of reincarnation. It seems that there is a lack of inheritance in this area. The original Emperor Hades had already refined the 6 paths of reincarnation, although it was simplified version, but at least it was refined. The only thing missing is the soul summoning bead. If the two join forces, no one can predict how terrifying the power will be. Thinking of the purpose of coming to Tianji Tower, Hanju's heart became hot. Get up, if you really let the underworld of the Xianguang realm get the inheritance of the Hades Emperor, the day when you will soar into the sky will be just around the corner. Senior, since the two come from the same source, does the underworld Emperor have a way to restrain the underworld in the Xianguang realm? Han Ju asked curiously. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 495. Restraint. Li Yun chuckled. He didn't take it seriously. He slowly said, it's not about restraint, but the two sides understand each other somewhat. With the methods of Emperor Hades, there may be a slight threat to the underworld of Xianguang realm. But the threat is not too great. Although these words are a bit harsh to Emperor Hades, they are true. Even if Emperor Hades can really deal with the underworld in the Xianguang realm, with the strength there, 10,000 emperors of Hades can't deal with a long one. Living realm. Even if the 6 paths of reincarnation were sacrificed, it would not have much effect. In the final analysis, the 6 paths of reincarnation of Emperor Hades are not the 6 paths of reincarnation of the underworld in the past. If it is the original 6 paths of reincarnation, not to mention the underworld of Xianguang realm, it is just a group of immortals. Even if the king comes, he has to kneel down. Very good. Hanju said excitedly. Emperor Hades holds the 6 paths of reincarnation in his hand, but it does not pose much of a threat to the underworld of the Xianguang realm. Isn't this the news he wants most? As long as he gets the whereabouts of Emperor Hades, this trip can be said to be a big one. Success. But just after he finished speaking, he met Li Yun's strange gaze. Hanju suddenly came back to his senses. As an enemy of the underworld in the Xianguang realm, saying the word too good at this time is a bit inappropriate no matter how you look at it. He smiled sarcastically and said awkwardly, Senior, don't get me wrong. Junior means that Emperor Hades is a threat to the underworld of Xianguang realm. This is great. After all, even if they risk their lives, the juniors and others cannot threaten the underworld of Xianguang realm. Huh, really? Li Yun chuckled and didn't take it seriously. Absolutely true. Hanju said quickly. He sighed softly, a look of loneliness flashed across his face, and said softly, it's a pity that when Emperor Hades rose, he was ambushed once by the true Lord Changsheng and Emperor Bailey. The whereabouts of Emperor Hades are unknown. If the underworld emperor can be invited back, it will be an opportunity for the earthly immortal realm. Maybe they can counterattack the Xianguang realm. It is not difficult to find the whereabouts of Emperor Hades. Li Yun stretched out one hand, picked up the teapot, got a cup of tea, and said slowly, the rare thing is that you want to counterattack the Xianguang realm, but it is impossible. As long as there is a chance, the junior will never let it go. Hanju said firmly and resoundingly, as if at this moment, he had really become the kind of hero who would give up everything for the sake of the earthly and immortal world. To be honest with the senior, this junior came to Tianji Tower with the hope of the entire earthly immortal world. Many supreme families have poured their resources into the junior. They asked the juniors to come to the Tianji Tower and ask if the Tianji Tower could point out a clear path to help us find the whereabouts of Emperor Hades. Hanju said it sincerely. As soon as he said this, he helped him take out the true immortal level items before, perfectly filling the loopholes and letting him take out other things next, which paved the way for him. Anyway, the whole place, the forces in the fairy world are all entrusted to him. Isn't that what I should do if I take out the items from the true fairyland? Even if I take out the items from the immortal realm, I can still excuse myself from going out. As long as one of them doesn't know, it's fine. After all, he is just a custodian, not the owner at all. Emperor of Hades. Li Yun chuckled lightly, picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea, and said slowly, this is not difficult, it depends on your sincerity. Senior, do you think these things can be exchanged for the whereabouts of Emperor Hades? Hanju immediately took out 3 true immortal level items and placed them on the table. In his opinion, Emperor Hades' strength is only that of a true immortal. It should be more than enough to exchange for 3 true immortal level items. Can? Li Yun nodded. He put away the 3 items from the true immortal realm and said straightforwardly, the Emperor of Hades is in the Hell realm. The world of death. Hanju was confused. This was the first time he heard these 2 words. He immediately asked in confusion, Senior, what kind of world is this world? Where again? The Hell realm was originally found in the underworld by a ghost king, also known as the immortal king in your mouth. Only Hades can open the entrance to the world. If you want to enter it, you have to change the method. Li Yun said quietly. Well. Hanju's face froze, and his intuition told him that he seemed to be tricked by this Tianji Tower, but where he was tricked, he couldn't tell for a while. Senior means that if you want to step into the world, you must have the existence of the immortal king. Hanju laughed dryly and murmured. Roughly the same. Li Yun nodded and continued, if there is a way to enter, you can naturally enter. Please also ask your seniors for advice. Hanju said respectfully. Li Yun did not speak, but stretched out a hand. This. Hanju swallowed and murmured, Senior, what do you mean? How? Do you think it is so easy to enter the world? You just asked about the whereabouts of Emperor Hades. I have already told you. How to enter the Hell realm now is the second question. Naturally, it cannot be generalized. Li Yun's face turned cold and he said angrily. Hanju was speechless. Isn't this too cruel? Just the whereabouts of Emperor Hades, and the owner of Tianji Tower only mentioned the word Jija. Is this worth 3 true fairyland items? The value of a single word written together is much higher than that of a real fairyland item. It's not that easy to make money. Thinking that after finding the underworld emperor, the underworld could gain a lot of strength, Hanju chose to endure it for the time being. As long as he found the underworld emperor, everything could be restored. At the very least, 1 realm and 6 realms of reincarnation. This is not comparable to real fairyland items. This time, Hanju directly took out 3 immortal realm items, placed them in front of Li Yun, and asked tentatively, Senior, can you tell me how you entered the realm this time? The value is a bit worse. Li Yun glanced at Hanju's storage ring and said calmly. How many trump cards the other party had in his hand could not be hidden from his eyes. He knew clearly that when Hanju came, Suchangluo handed over, he received 5 items from the immortality realm. There are also 10 items from the true immortality realm. If these things are not squeezed out, how can they echo the words Tianji Tower? A little worse. Hanju pondered for a moment, placed the other 2 immortal realm items and the 7 true immortal realm items in front of Li Yun, and said helplessly. Is it enough now, Senior? No matter how much you say, he will really be gone. About there. Li Yun put away his things, threw out a jade slip, fell into Hanju's hands, and said the entrance to the Hell Realm is at the ruins of the underworld established by Emperor Hades. With the method recorded in the jade slips, she can be found. Of course. Only to find her. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 496. Just to find her. Hanju was smarter this time. He keenly discovered the loopholes in the words of the owner of Tianji. From the beginning, there is a huge problem with the words of the owner of Tianji. Whether he can find it or not is one thing. How about catching him? If he doesn't catch it, it's another matter. If things go wrong, he will have to pay a huge price if he wants to catch Hades. However, with his current wealth, I'm afraid he can't afford the news. Hanjushan he entered the jade slip with consciousness, took a look at the contents, and quickly recorded it in his mind. With this thing, it should not be a problem to at least find the Hades Emperor. Moreover, with the foundation of the underworld of the Xianguang realm, there are countless masters of the immortality realm. To catch a Hades Emperor in the true immortal realm, you should hold it in your hand, right? I guess. Even if Hades Emperor has wings, he can't escape from the grasp of the underworld in the Xianguang realm. Thinking of this, Hanju suddenly felt a feeling in his heart. Confidence. He chuckled and said, as long as we can find Emperor Hades, that will be enough. I will find a way to convince Emperor Hades to let her help the earthly immortal world. I'm afraid that Emperor Hades is not that easy to talk to. Li Yun held the teacup and said with a half-smile, no matter what, Emperor Hades holds an ancient inheritance in her hands. It is not easy for ordinary people to invite her. Li Yun deliberately emphasized the word please. But Hanju seemed to turn a deaf ear. He chuckled softly and said the Emperor of Hades is also a creature of the earthly immortal world. His hometown has encountered a disaster. How can she just sit back and watch? Reason. Ah. Li Yun smiled indifferently and said casually, since you have so much confidence, you might as well give it a try. You are welcome to come back to my Tianji building at any time. As the saying goes, visitors are guests. Whether they are people from the underworld or other forces, Li Yun has no reason to turn them away. After all, whose resources are earned, not profit? I have already reminded you clearly, but Han definitely doesn't want to rob resources, so he has nothing to do. He can't do it on his own and give him benefits. After he gets frustrated, he will probably think of what he said today. If there are any questions in the future, the junior will naturally come back. Hanju bowed respectfully. As for whether he will really come again, only he himself knows. Li Yun nodded slightly and said, if there is nothing else, please leave first. The juniors resigned. Hanju bowed his hands and saluted. If nothing else, at least he had done the best in his attitude. He was no different from other people who entered the Tianji building. If Li Yun hadn't been able to see his personal panel, he would never have imagined that this person in front of him would be there. People have completely fallen to the underworld. Outside the Tianji building. As soon as Hanju came out, he looked back at Tianji Tower. After he came out, a second person immediately entered the Tianji Tower. When other people go in, they think that they have to answer other people's questions in the Tianji Tower, and the attention may not be focused on themselves. Hanju pondered for a moment. He took out a jade slip in his hand, entered all the messages that the master of Tianji gave him just now, and quickly passed it on. Just as soon as the news came out. The mysterious light world is hundreds of millions of miles away. Within a large hall. Suchangluo stood up suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes, he turned his palm, and a jade slip appeared in his palm. After he took a look at the contents. The smile on the corner of the mouth spreads quickly. Good. Suchangluo shouted loudly, and the surprise in his heart reached the top. What about the master of Tianji? This time, he helped me in the underworld in disguise? Wait until our master breaks through the immortal king and gets the 6 paths of reincarnation. The refining method will use the strength of the immortal king and the help of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Even if the owner of Tianji is a giant immortal king, he can compete with him. Any news? 2 figures walked in from outside the palace. The one on the left was wearing armor. There were 2 faint green candles in the helmet, which flickered on and off, like the fire of hell, making people dare not look at each other. The person was none other than Lu Changfeng, who was holding a soul-calling bead in his hand. And next to him, there was a figure shrouded in black mist, exuding this terrifying chill. The moment he entered, the entire hall was covered with a layer of ice. People who are not strong enough to live in the immortal realm may not be able to hold on for an hour or 3 in the hall before turning into an ice sculpture, which is extremely terrifying. After the 2 people came in, they all looked at each other with curious eyes, looked at Suchangluo, waiting for his next words. Good. Su. Changluo shook the jade slip in his hand slightly, and said with a hint of pride, I just sent someone to the Tianji Tower once, and we got the news we wanted. Emperor of Hades. Lu Changfeng Qi asked a question. Good. Suchangluo nodded. Is there any fraud here? After all, the relationship between the owner of Tianji and our underworld is not harmonious. Maybe he gave us false news. Lu Changfeng said in a deep voice. If it is really a fake news, then no matter how many people they went to the underworld, they may have to be included. Probably not. Hearing Lu Changfeng's words, Suchangluo couldn't help but feel a little excited, because deep down in his heart, he also felt that the news came a bit easily. It is said that the master of Tianji is omniscient, a Hanju. Really, is it possible to hide the deduction from the master of Tianji? Judging from the high probability, it should not be possible. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that the master of Tianji did not deduce everything about Hanju at all, so he gave the news to Hanju casually, and then let them pick it up in hell. Tianji Tower has a transcendent status in the current worlds, and recently, because of our underworld, countless people are eager to see the owner of Tianji Tower every day. I estimate that the owner of Tianji Tower doesn't have much leisure to deduce everyone who enters Tianji Tower. If he really did this, he could tire himself to death even if he was tired. The figure shrouded in black mist said in a deep voice. Although they have never seen Tianji's ability to deduce Tianji, they have heard about it. This method is so extensive and profound that ordinary people cannot go deep into it. Even the owner of Tianji has reached an unprecedented level. In this situation, if he wants to deduce everything, he can't figure it out at a glance. It will inevitably take a lot of energy. If he can deduce everything, let alone the immortal king, even the immortal king giant will not be able to withstand it. If you say so. Suchangluo looked happy, weighed the jade slip in his hand, and said softly, is this news credible? Believable? The figure shrouded in black mist nodded slightly and said again, even if it is false news, if we send someone to test it in advance, we should not lose much. As long as we are cautious enough, even if the owner of Tianji can deduce everything, he will not be able to calculate us. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 497. That being the case, Suchangluo's confidence came back, and he smiled and said, I will take people on a trip. If nothing happens, we can bring Emperor Hades back to the underworld in a few days. When the Lord comes out of seclusion, Emperor Hades will be a great gift from us to him. Emperor Hades is related to the future of the underworld, and we must treat it with caution. The figure shrouded in black mist glanced at Lu Changfen next to him, and finally set his sights on Suchangluo, and said in a deep voice, "I'll go with you. After all, Emperor Hades has received the inheritance from the underworld. No one knows whether he has the secret method left by the ancient underworld in his hands. If she escapes, we will all be blamed when the master comes out of seclusion." This. A trace of hesitation flashed across Suchangluo's face. He glanced at the creature shrouded in black mist. He immediately thought that this person wanted to take credit and seize the underworld emperor. This matter was very important in the Lord's heart. If done by two people, naturally, the credit belongs to two people. But if you finish the show alone, the meaning will be different. How? Inconvenient. The figure covered in black mist frowned and asked in a deep voice. "No, no." Suchangluo waved his hands quickly, and said with a smile, "My fellow Taoist is willing to go with me. I am not happy enough, but if both of us go, what will happen to the underworld? And a small Hades emperor is really not worthy of many people in the immortality realm. Although Ming Emperor has good qualifications, they have already figured out the background of Ming Emperor. He is just a figure who has just stepped into the true fairyland. Even if her strength is improved, can she still make a difference? Don't worry about this." The figure shrouded in black mist, his eyes fell on Lu Changfen, and he said, "With friend Lu here, the underworld will be safe. Moreover, the prestige of the underworld is now at its peak. How many blind people dare to provoke the underworld? How about those cats and dogs in the immortal world? As for the earthly immortal world, everyone in the underworld has a surprisingly unanimous opinion. That is, they are chickens and dogs. They are vulnerable and cannot even bring out a person in the immortal realm. If they still take them to heart, the underworld will be too disappointed. Level. Their target is all the worlds in the world, not a small immortal world. Even if all the people in the immortal realm in the underworld go out together, how many people dare to step into the underworld? I guess not even one, right? You two fellow Taoists can go ahead, I will take care of the underworld, and nothing will happen." At this time, Lu Changfen also spoke. As soon as he said these words, Suchangluo immediately understood that if he continued to refuse, he would look a bit ugly, and the people next to him would probably be dissatisfied. With the help of Taoist friends, it seems that a mere Hades emperor has no chance of escaping. Suchangluo laughed dryly. He continued, "We have already grasped the whereabouts of Emperor Hades. How about we take our troops and go together now?" "Can." The figure shrouded in black mist nodded. As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them took a step at the same time and disappeared into the underworld. At the same time, in the underworld, countless terrifying auras rose into the sky and turned into a long river of waves rushes towards the end of the world. In the long river, countless elites from the underworld are looming in the middle. This scene is clearly visible within millions of miles. Countless people are shocked in their hearts. Absolutely. Is the underworld going to start another conquest? How long has it been silent for? If the underworld starts again, there are probably not many people who can stop it. Just when countless people are worried, the elites of the underworld are not wantonly. Instead, he took action and rushed towards the underworld ruins established by Emperor Hades with a clear goal. Until then, many people breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, Tianyuan world. The deserted city. Once out of the attic, Yang Qiu walked in hurriedly, and as soon as he stepped into the attic, he saluted respectfully and said, "Disciple Yang Qiu, pay homage to our ancestor. Come in." In the attic, Meng Qingzi had a majestic body, with disheveled black hair, and his eyes were full of light. He looked at Yang Qiu who came in, and slowly said, "What's wrong? Have you met the senior Tianji poster? The disciple is incompetent and has never been able to enter the Tianji tower." Yang Qiu said with a look of shame. You can't blame him. Who are the people who want to enter Tianji Tower at this time? Even the emperor was vying to get in. He is a saint, and he really doesn't have any cards. Even if he carries the Juyu demon sex sign, it's not easy to use. People don't give him any face at all. Didn't go in? Meng. King Zi glanced at Yang Qiu from the corner of his eyes. He was about to get angry, but after taking a look at the Tianji Tower, he suppressed the anger in his heart. He could see the situation in front of the Tianji Tower clearly. He also knew that this was not the case. Blame Yang Qiu. Whatever. I will take action in person later. Meng Qingzi said softly. So many people were anxious to enter the Tianji Tower. After contacting what happened in Tianyuan World and Earth Immortal World in recent days, his intuition told him that something big will happen soon. As a cultivator, you must grasp every situation. An opportunity. Missing the opportunity means missing the opportunity. After becoming the emperor, he reached the realm of the Middle Emperor in a short period of time. Didn't he rely on intuition and his courage to fight? If he is timid, from the beginning, he did not dare to destroy the shaking light holy land, nor did he dare to block the door before the true immortal inheritance, nor did he dare to attack Fuyun Mountain. It was just these three opportunities that made him soar into the sky, and the entire Juyu demon sect was the overall situation has undergone tremendous changes. It can be said that the current prestige of the Nine Nether Demon sect has been established by oneself. Ancestor. Yang Qiu looked resentful and murmured, our enemies of the Nine Nether Demon sect have already, enough. Although Meng Qingzi has gained a lot during this period, there are really too many enemies, which makes him, the leader of the Nine Nether Demon sect, feel insecure. As he walks on the road, he is constantly worried that he would be assassinated by an emperor. After all, the forces that Meng Qingzi offended were too terrifying. He didn't even bother to provoke forces that were not at the level of the emperor. But the key is that after provoking them, Meng Qingzi still couldn't make peace. This is a bit embarrassing. He was very worried that his ancestor, after entering the Tianji Tower this time, would get mad and do some big business again. What do you know? The reason why I have been able to reach this point is because of this vision. I have a premonition that something big will happen in the near future. If our Juyu demon sect does not participate and take a sip of soup, we may become a second-rate force in the future. Meng Qingzi said angrily. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 498. Ancestor, our Nine Nether Demon section. Yang Qiu was speechless. He wanted to say that the Nine Nether Demon sect was already a second-rate force. If it were in the Tianyuan world, the Juyu demon sect was still a bit weak, but in other worlds, it was no different from the second-rate, if compared with the Xianguang world. Even third-rate people may not be able to squeeze in. It is true that the other worlds are too terrifying. Anyone you pull out at random is not something Juyu demon sect can afford to offend. I know what you want to say. Meng. Qingzi glanced at Yang Qiu and said angrily. A junior can see through the fact. As a great emperor, how could he not see it? In this situation, even among the most talented and beautiful people, the speed of the increase in strength is not as fast as the speed of the integration of the world by the senior Tianji Luzu. He has just broken through a realm, and the Tianji Luzu backhand has brought a more terrifying world. How can this not make people feel despair? But at the same time, how can this be? Isn't it an opportunity? The more powerful the world, the more opportunities there will be. This is an eternal truth. If the Nine Nether Demon sect can seize the opportunity, it is not impossible to catch up from behind in the future. Although the current Xianguang realm and the underworld are unstoppable, they have also committed a big taboo. From the beginning, they launched a massive conquest of the earthly immortal realm, which will definitely put everyone in danger. One or two forces may not be opponents of the underworld yet. But what if it's the entire Earth immortal realm? Meng Qingzi said lightly. The entire earthly immortal realm seems to be no match for the underworld in the Xianguang realm. Yang Qiu pondered for a moment and responded. Well. Meng Qingzi's face froze and he said angrily, but you have forgotten that behind the earthly immortal realm, there is the senior Master Tianji. As long as Master Tianji points out a clear path in the earthly immortal realm, it may not be impossible to achieve great things with small things. The ancestor believes that the underworld in the Xianguang realm will be defeated in the future. Yang Qiu was shocked and said in disbelief. You know, not long ago, the Xianguang realm and the underworld quickly occupied half of the earthly immortal realm with lightning speed. The whole process only took a few days. The earthly immortal realm fell. The speed exceeded everyone's expectations. After this battle, no one was optimistic about the earthly immortal world. The two worlds were no longer on the same level. After all, even the three immortals who died in the underworld were not hurt. Vitality. Who knows how many terrifying existences they hide secretly? Even if these people don't take action. Just relying on the people who have come back from the dead in the earthly immortal world is enough to drink a pot of the immortal world. Therefore, the future situation of the earthly immortal world cannot be tolerated. Optimistic. Destruction is only a matter of time. But I never expected that my ancestor would not be optimistic about the underworld of Xianguang realm today. Not in the future, but soon. Meng Qingzi said confidently. How did the ancestor know? Yang Qiu was confused. As far as he knew, his ancestor had been staying in Dawang City since the great changes in the Tianyuan world. During this period, he had not been anywhere. How could he know so clearly? Could it be that he went there secretly? Passing Tianji Tower? But if this is the case, it doesn't make sense. If his ancestor had been to Tianji Tower, he should be planning now instead of going to Tianji Tower again. After thinking for a long time, Yang Qiu still couldn't figure it out. You're looking at it too one-sidedly. Meng Qingzi shook his head and said calmly, Xianguang realm can occupy half of the earthly immortal realm in a few days. With their strength, it won't take much effort to rule the entire earthly immortal realm. But now, they suddenly stopped. Do you know why? Because of the senior Tianji poster. Yang Qiu said tentatively. This news is not a secret. Almost everyone in the Tianyuan world knows that the death of three immortal realm figures is not a small matter. Not only is the underworld shaken inexplicably. Even all the creatures in the Tianyuan world were all very deceived. The master of Tianji killed three immortals in one blow. This was simply unbelievable. It once again refreshed countless people's understanding of the master of Tianji. Therefore, everyone believed that the underworld was restraining its ambitions now. It was because he was suppressed by the owner of Tianji. Good. Meng Qingzi nodded, looked towards the direction of the Xianguang realm, and said softly, if I guessed correctly, the current underworld must have felt that it was no match for the senior Tianji building master, so he stood still. As long as they feel that they have enough control, they will definitely come back, and then it will be the end of the earthly immortal world. Everyone in the underworld knows this, and the creatures in the immortal world also understand this. Now that everyone understands, don't you think that the creatures in the immortal world will do something during this time? If the entire earthly immortal realm were to be slaughtered at the drop of a hat, it would be an eye-opener for me. Only. Yang Qiu pursed his lips, but there was still doubt in his eyes, and said softly, Ancestor, I think too highly of the earthly immortal realm. They don't have a single figure in the immortality realm. Even if the senior Tianji building master points out a clear path, what can I do? In the eyes of countless people, any plan cannot be compared to the same in the face of absolute strength. No matter how many schemes he has, if he encounters a huge monster, he will destroy you with just one breath. No matter how many schemes he has, what's the use? Senior Tianji landlord, it's not as simple as you think. Meng Qingzi smiled. At this moment, in his mind, Fang Han's appearance appeared involuntarily. This person is just a young prodigy, but he can exert the strength of the great emperor. Isn't it because the master of Tianji is behind him? Help! Now in the earthly immortal world, there are no people in the immortality realm on the surface. But who can guarantee it? Will there be someone who can temporarily possess the strength of the immortality realm? What if the entire earthly immortal world completely risked its life and bought a person in the Tianji Tower? He was not surprised at all by having the opportunity to directly cultivate a group of immortal realm characters. Therefore, he believed that the good days of the Xianguang realm were coming to an end. Could it be that there is a hidden secret in this? Yang Qiu's eyes lit up. His ancestor never made any uncertain business. Now that he is so sure, he must have guessed something. But due to his identity, he couldn't ask more questions. There are many things for which you have only seen the tip of the iceberg. Meng Qingzi smiled slightly, and his eyes fell in front of the Tianji Tower not far away. At this time, a person happened to walk out of it. Seeing this scene, Meng Qingzi stood up and said lightly, I'm going to go there. Tianji Tower, while I'm away, remember to guard the gate and don't let anyone take advantage of you. Disciples, please remember this. Yang Qiu quickly bowed and saluted. When he raised his head, Meng Qingzi had disappeared from the room. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 499. In the Tianji Tower. Meng Qingzi strode in. After entering, he immediately saluted and said, Junior Meng Qingzi, I have met my senior. Oh! Hearing this, Li Yun looked up, with a hint of smile in his eyes, and said jokingly, it seems that you gained a lot last time, and your strength has improved in a short period of time. It's all thanks to the seniors. Meng Qingzi said with a chuckle. After his strength reaches the great emperor, every step forward is extremely difficult. But Meng Qingzi has only been able to break through for a long time. In just a few years, he has reached the middle stage of the great emperor. It is like riding a rocket. The reason why he can in this way, the most important reason is that he obtained most of the collection in Fuyun Mountain, and you must know that among them, there are also many legacies of the Fang family. This wave directly caused earth-shaking changes in the Juya demon sect. With the harvest from Fuyun Mountain, not to mention Meng Qingzi, even Fang Han is improving rapidly. During this period, he has completely reached the top of the Tianjiao list. For a time, it shocked countless people. Of course. This is also thanks to Xianguang in the underworld, the entire world has been swept away. Otherwise, it's unclear whether Fang Han can still hold the number one position now. This achievement is all your personal creation. Li Yun waved his hand, pointed to a chair not far away and said, sit down, come to Tianji Tower today. Do you want to go to the Xianguang realm and fish in troubled waters? Nothing can be hidden from the seniors. Meng Qingzi rubbed his hands and said with a smile. Don't blame me for not reminding you that the Xianguang realm is not an ordinary world. Don't say that you only have the power of a great emperor. Even if you are a true immortal, you may fall at any time. Li Yun said in a deep voice. If it was the previous Xianguang realm and there was no underworld, Meng Qingzi might not have had much of a problem, but after there was the underworld, it would be different. The entire Xianguang realm was the chassis of the underworld at this time. Anyone from the outside world who comes there is very likely to be arrested and then become a member of the underworld. Isn't this a senior? Meng Qingzi complimented. He lowered his voice and continued, with seniors here, let alone a small Xianguang realm, it is the supreme world. There is no problem for juniors to go for a walk. As long as the senior does not want the junior to perish, who in the world can kill the junior? Ah! Li Yun chuckled lightly, looked at Meng Qingzi, and said meaningfully, you have been thinking about it for millions of years, why are you flattering me? Well. Meng Qingzi's expression froze, then he quickly recovered, a smile appeared on his face again, and he said with a smile, the words of this junior come from the heart, they are completely sincere, and there is no falsehood. I know what you say comes from the bottom of your heart, but... Li Yun changed the subject and said narrowly, the news in Tianji Tower will not be discounted because of this. This. Meng Qingzi pursed his lips. It was a bit of a miscalculation. Regarding the discount, before he even opened his mouth, he was blocked by the senior owner of Tianji. As a result, things were a bit difficult to handle. After all, I came here to inquire about news about the underworld. The underworld is so terrifying, and there are countless people in the immortal realm. Thinking about it with your toes, you can also know the information about the underworld, which is extremely precious. You can't buy much news by yourself. Dare to ask seniors. Meng Qingzi rubbed his hands. Since the senior Tianji poster didn't give him a discount, he went straight to the topic and asked. During this period, did someone buy the news about the underworld and plan to take action against the underworld? In his opinion, the underworld is silent and there is no movement. This is a good opportunity to deal with the underworld. If you miss this opportunity and want to deal with the underworld in the future, it will be extremely difficult. He can think of taking this opportunity to deal with the underworld. Naturally, some people in the fairy world will also think of it. I don't ask for news about the underworld, but only ask if there is anyone who wants to deal with the underworld. It shouldn't cost much, right? Moreover, someone in Tianji Tower bought the news about dealing with the underworld. There is a secret behind it. With the advice of the poster, the underworld will be caught off guard. By then, wouldn't it be possible to make a lot of money by following behind the scenes and fishing in troubled waters? Li Yun squinted from the corner of his eyes, looked at Meng Qingzi deeply, and chuckled. This news is of extraordinary value and requires 3 emperor-level items. This. Meng Qingzi's expression froze, and he was embarrassed. Why is it so expensive? In his opinion, this news is not worth a penny to the senior Tianji building master. After all, if anyone comes to ask for news about the underworld, and use it to deal with the underworld, the senior Tianji building master knows it well. All he has to do is nod or shake his head. How could such a simple thing be worth 3 emperor-level items? This is simply a money grab. No. It's even more exaggerated than robbing money. Because of the money grab, it is impossible to grab 3 emperor-level items at once. You think wrong. Li Yun glanced at Meng Qingzi and said seriously, the news about Tianji Tower is never about whether it is of any use to me. But let's see if this news is of any use to you. You know, every piece of news Tianjilu sells is worthless to me, because I won't use the news to do anything. Instead, it fell into your hands. This news is worth thousands of gold. As he spoke, Li Yun's voice became a few points heavier, and he continued, for example, the news you just heard, is there anyone who wants to deal with the underworld? If this news falls into the hands of the underworld, how do you think things will go? How much price are they willing to pay to find someone to deal with them? In other words, if this news falls into your hands, how much benefit can you get from this news? So, you can't suffer a loss or be cheated when buying these 3 emperor-level items. You will only make more in the future. Meng Qingzi was speechless. I understand the principles, but I have never seen it so simple to make money. This means that I am not good at deducing secrets. If I were proficient in it, I might open a branch of Tianji Tower now. Of course. He just thought about this idea. After all, I don't have this kind of method to not be afraid of the backlash of the heavenly secret. If I can't resist the backlash, I might die one day when a heavenly disaster strikes. Meng Qingzi sighed lightly and flicked his palm in the air. 3 emperor-level items appeared out of thin air and were placed on the table. Senior, can we say now, is there anyone who wants to deal with the underworld? Have. Li Yun accepted the things and spat out one word without continuing to talk about it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 500. Really? Meng Qingzi's eyes lit up. Everything is as I thought. At this juncture, someone is indeed planning how to deal with the underworld. If you can make it to the Xianguang realm within a month, you may be able to witness it with your own eyes, but if you can't make it, I'm afraid that even if you know this news, it won't be of much use. Li Yun said lightly. A month. Meng Qingzi frowned. This time is a little tight. With his own strength, he is rushing towards the Xianguang realm. It is not realistic to arrive in a month. After all, he has to cross the Zixuan realm and the earthly immortal realm. Each of these 2 worlds is very vast. As a great emperor, it is impossible for him to cross them in a short time. Is there any way for the seniors to send the juniors to the Xianguang realm in a short time? Meng Qingzi asked softly. It's still 3 emperor-level items, no bargaining. Li Yun stretched out 3 fingers again and waved them in front of Meng Qingzi. 3 pieces. Meng Qingzi felt a toothache. This is probably the highest travel expense in history. He crossed 2 worlds, but received 3 imperial weapons. Who can explain this? If it is normal, he can just go there slowly. It will take a long time. In the last year or 2, I could finally get there, but now I can't. The underworld is about to encounter changes. If I go there slowly, I'm afraid I won't even be able to drink the soup. Too much. Li Yun chuckled. No. Meng Qingzi shook his head quickly. He quickly took out 3 emperor-level items and placed them in front of Li Yun. Before Fuyun Mountain was destroyed, and the entire Fuyun Mountain's foundation was taken away by him and Fang Han. Several emperor-level items were taken away, saying to be honest, he doesn't take it seriously. This thing is not even a tenth of it. Anyway, Fuyun Mountain has been passed down for countless years, and there are many emperor-level items. When is it convenient for seniors to send juniors there? Meng Qingzi asked again. You can do it at any time, but with your current strength, are you sure you can survive after it passes? Li Yun said jokingly. Well. Meng Qingzi's expression froze. He had also thought about this problem. After all, he had the power of a great emperor. If he really went to the Xianguang realm, he would be fishing in troubled waters. Or die, no one can guarantee that. After all, there are many scary people in the Xianguang realm. If you are not careful, you may lose everything. Does the senior have any ideas? Meng Qingzi's body trembled and he said excitedly. At this moment, he thought of Fang Han before. He was a young prodigy who raised his senior to the realm of the great emperor. How many realms had he crossed in the process? Is it possible? I also want to experience it in advance. For a moment, has the strength of the immortal realm been reached? Of course there is. Li Yun flipped his palm, and a dark array appeared in his palm. It landed in front of Meng Qingzi and said lightly, this is an immortal realm array. If it is activated, you can immediately set up an immortal realm killing array. With your understanding of the array, you should know how to activate it. This. Meng Qingzi was extremely excited. He stretched out his hand and was about to grab the array plate, but his body trembled and he slowly took his hand back. He licked his lips. He asked with hope, Senior, is this array disk lent to juniors for use? Although, deep down in his heart he knew that this chance was infinitely close to zero. But what if? What if the senior, out of kindness, gave this formation plate directly to me? Didn't he soar into the sky? The formation of the immortal realm is different from the strength of the immortal realm. The strength of the immortal realm can be 1-1 or 1-2 at most. There is no guarantee of victory. After all, people have cultivated step by step, but they are castles in the air. They have no realm understanding and are almost no match for anyone in the immortality realm. But the formation is different. With such a formation, let alone one immortal, even if there are 3 or 4 more, Menkingzi will not panic at all. More importantly, the formation plate is nothing else. After using this thing, if it is not damaged, it can be used again. Maybe the senior really wants to give it to me? You think too much. Li Yun pointed at the formation plate and said 3 immortality realm items. 3 item. Menkingzi was stunned. He knew that the senior would not be so kind, but he did not expect that the value would be so outrageous. Is it expensive? Li Yunruo said nonchalantly, although this is a formation, there is a killing formation in it. If you are strong enough, you can understand a formation in it. And you don't understand the value of this formation, right? This formation disk was not given by the system, but was made by Li Yun himself after the system redeemed the formation secret book. It was originally intended to be placed in Dawang City. But now it seems that it is a bit useless. At this moment, it's just right. Sell to Menkingzi to make extra money. Not expensive. Menkingzi pursed his lips. To be honest, he was very greedy for this formation disk, but he really couldn't get such a valuable thing from him. Not to mention the 3 immortality realm items, even one of them was a heaven-defying level item. If I had one, I would just like to offer it up. But now, Senior Tianji poster, asking him to bring out 3 items of immortality realm is almost impossible. Senior, is there a compromise? Meng Kingzi asked in a low voice. Of course there is. Li Yun smiled slightly and said, I can lend you this array disk to use once, but the value this time is 5 true fairyland items. Li Yun stretched out 5 fingers and waved them in front of Menkingzi. 5 items. Menkingzi swallowed and his eyes straightened. To be honest, 5 true fairy realm items are not as valuable as 1 immortality realm item, but these items are worth almost all of his worth. Such a huge resource, in exchange for an opportunity to use it. No matter how you look at it, it's a bit of a loss. If there is no formation disk, if you run to the Xianguang realm, you may not have the opportunity to fish in troubled waters, but the possibility of falling will be greater. With this array, there is no doubt about it. Not only is your life saved, you no longer have to worry about it, but you can also go one step further and get more benefits. After weighing the pros and cons for a moment, Menkingzi quickly made up his mind. With a wave of his hand, 2 exercises and a lot of resources appeared in his hand. These 2 exercises come from Fuiyun Mountain. After the destruction of Fuiyun Mountain, he captured it. Senior, I really can't get the 5 true fairyland items out of my hands. I wonder if these things are worth the value of the 5 true fairyland items? Menkingzi asked tentatively. Can? Li Yun nodded. The moment he nodded, the formation disk was guided and slowly fell into Menkingzi's hands. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 501. The moment Menkingzi took over the array. He hasn't reacted yet. I saw. Li Yun waved his hand casually, and the surrounding scenery changed rapidly. When he came to his senses again, he had arrived in a strange world. The mountains and rivers here have collapsed, the ancient trees have broken, the rivers have stopped flowing, and there is a desolate scene everywhere. Broken walls and ruins can be seen everywhere. From these ruins, it can be vaguely seen that this was once an extremely glorious world with countless powerful practitioners. Especially, Menkingzi is also a formation master. From some dilapidated ruins, he saw broken formations. Even if these formations were breached, only a few formation patterns were left, and they still showed shocking murderous intent. As can be seen, if these formations still exist intact, once activated, it can almost shock the whole world. Even a person in the immortal realm will probably have to waste a lot of energy. But even this powerful force has been wiped out abruptly, leaving nothing behind except some dried blood. But not a single body. Is this the Xianguang realm? Menkingzi swallowed, and his heart was filled with shock. Even if it was just the tip of the iceberg, he could see the glory of the Xianguang realm in the past. This world was too powerful, and it was not comparable to the Tianyuan realm. Pull out anyone. Any character can easily crush him. To be able to destroy the Xianguang realm, how deep must the underworld be? Menkingzi thought in his heart. The whole world has been swept away. The underworld contains the entire Xianguang realm and the foundation of countless forces. I don't know how rich the family wealth is. If he can get some, even if it is a drop in the bucket, it may be enough to make the entire Juyu demon sect. You will use it for the rest of your life. After taking a look at the surrounding scenery, Menkingzi gathered all his breath, then pointed in a direction, and slowly sneaked over. Soon after, a huge thing appeared directly in front of him. It was a pitch-black tower. The city is countless thousands of miles in circumference and extremely huge. There are many armored soldiers on the city wall, holding spears and armors. The cold and chilling atmosphere swept through the 8 wastelands. The strength of each soldier is very powerful, and the whole body is covered with darkness. The aura is lingering, and from a distance, it looks like a demon god from hell, standing there quietly. Once alerted, hundreds of millions of soldiers will attack, enough to burst out with world-destroying power. Hell! Menkingzi's pupils shrank, and his heart seemed to be tightly grasped by an invisible hand. He could hardly breathe. He was worthy of the strength that could sweep across the Xianguang realm. This was the only scene he had ever seen in his life. The strength of the soldiers on the city is only at the level of heavenly transformation. For a great emperor like him, they are nothing. But if you pull out a commander at random, he is at the saint level. You know. This kind of people, in the 9 nether demon zone, can almost serve as the supreme elder. But in the underworld, he is still a low-level figure. And this is just part of the strength that appears on the wall of the underworld. I don't know what kind of strength the Earth Immortal Realm has to deal with the people of the underworld this time. If you are not in the true Immortal Realm, you may not even be able to enter the city gate after you come. Menkingzi murmured to himself. Of course. Even if you are in the realm of true immortals, there is a high probability that you will not be able to enter the city gate. Looking back at the direction from which you came, Menkingzi did not see anyone. He pondered for a moment and held in his hand the formation disc appeared and was placed on the ground. A ray of true energy was injected into it, and the entire formation disc was instantly covered with stripes. Then, it spread in all directions. An inexplicable wave suddenly covered traveling hundreds of thousands of miles around. The whole process was silent and did not attract anyone's attention. Everything seemed as if nothing happened. The formation was set up. Menkingzi breathed a sigh of relief. Next, he only had to wait quietly for the immortal world. Just come over and kill them. At the same time, in the immortal world, the ruins of the underworld established by Emperor Hades. This place was very glorious. As one of the top forces in the earthly immortal realm, it was unparalleled in majesty. However, the whereabouts of Emperor Hades were unknown. The continuous palaces and buildings here were completely destroyed by those who wanted to. In the entire underworld, there were only 2 or 3 big cats and kittens left, waiting for the return of Hades. Unfortunately, the underworld emperor didn't wait, but they waited for the underworld elites from the Xianguang realm. Is this the entrance to the Hell realm? Suchangluo stood in the void. Behind him, the warships were across the sky, covering the sky and the sun, boundless, like a piece of Wang Yang, surging. With some methods, without the guidance of the owner of Tianji, I am afraid that no one can find the entrance to the world. Besides Suchangluo, the figure shrouded in black mist, with a pair of crimson eyes looking down, extremely cold, with murderous intent surging around him, unabashedly. The master of Tianji can deduce Tianji, which is somewhat unique. Suchangluo smiled slightly and didn't care. In his opinion, so what if the master of Tianji Tower has calculated all the secrets of heaven? Hasn't he indirectly helped the underworld and handed the emperor of Hades to the hands of the underworld? In some cases, it's better not to draw conclusions too early. The figure covered in black mist glanced around. Just now, for some reason, there seemed to be a pair of eyes watching them clearly. But after he carefully sensed it, he found nothing, just like an illusion. But how could he and others still have hallucinations with such strength? The owner of Tianji. He murmured to himself, feeling awe-inspiring in his heart. If the master of Tianji is really watching him and others, I'm afraid this operation may not be that simple. Thinking of this, he glanced at Suchangluo and said in a deep voice without further delay, let's open up the space passage to the Hell realm as soon as possible, otherwise something may happen. Suchangluo glanced at the other party. Although he had doubts in his heart, he didn't ask any more questions. He raised one hand, formed a seal with one hand, and released the power of the avenue. The runes appeared one after another, stirring up the past and present, as if penetrating it touched the whole world. It aroused the unimaginable power. After he formed the seal, all the runes merged and bloomed with brilliant brilliance. In an instant, it was as if a scorching sun appeared out of thin air, blooming billions of rays of brilliance, illuminating the sky and the earth, bursting out. The power that caused the heaven and earth to collapse. The entire earthly immortal world seemed to have been penetrated. Within the boundless range, the heaven and earth trembled, the stars trembled, and countless creatures were in fear all day long, for fear that the people of the underworld would launch a conquest against them again. Boom! Amidst the deafening roar, a large hole was opened in the ruins of the underworld. It was pitch black and extremely deep, with a rich yin energy escaping. I don't know where the other end of the cave leads to.